Good writing is not about how you use punctuation, fancy words, or elaborate sentences. It is all about how effectively you achieve your objective. Did people feel what you wanted them to feel? Do people know what you wanted them to know? And do they now understand what you need them to? This can all be achieved with writing. Your start point is knowing yourself what your objective is. Before writing, ask yourself, what do I want people to know, feel, understand, or do once they have read this? How can I make that accessible and digestible? Once you know what your end goal is, you can work out the other most important part, where to start. It's called composition. And a composition is most simply defined as a creative work, especially a poem or piece of music. It is a whole. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so does every single piece of writing. As just discussed, before you start, you need to know what your end goal is, where your reader needs to end up. This is important because there are always so many places that you could start with writing. Once you know where it will end, it becomes easier to choose where you will start. And in today's attention economy, you also need to think about ways that will grab and hold attention. The old-fashioned way of gradually working your way into your message just doesn't work anymore. People are too easily bored and distracted and will simply stop reading. Click away and go to another browser tab or a different email. So ask yourself, what's in it for my reader? What will they gain? What benefit will they get if they read this thing that you're writing? Start there. If point Z is the end point, A is the start, what logically needs to happen for me to get from A to Z? Follow the logic of the steps. Don't take huge forward leaps, measured steps. And consider symmetry. Each step should be more or less the same size. If step 1 seems bigger, break it into 2 steps. If a step is really small, think about, is it not actually part of another bigger step, and join it up. Now, having a beginning and a middle and an end is great. But somehow you have to develop your story. You have to get from the beginning to the middle and then obviously on to the end. How you do this is not so much important as that it must be internally consistent and maintain its own logic. And there has to be a logic. So, for example, many books and films jump around in time. It's not linear from the real start time until the end of the time. But each jump episode is clearly introduced so you don't get confused, unless it's an art house film. This is when you have the beginning, middle, and end. The most important question to ask is, how do I get from A to Z so everybody follows the story? What must happen straight after A to get my reader moving towards B, and then to C, and so on, until the conclusion appears inescapable, acceptable, and understandable. One of the most common mistakes in writing is to leave out steps, which then confuses the reader. We leave steps out because, for us, it's all very clear and known. We forget that our readers don't know what we know and have not experienced it. It's similar to being a computer whiz and trying to explain to a novice how to use a new program over the telephone. The whiz will always assume too much and quickly jump over steps, believing them to be self-evident, which confuses the beginner. You need to avoid this when writing. Therefore, you need to think through your entire message before you start writing, so that you know what all the steps are that need to be covered. But don't worry, the more you write and the better you get, the more this starts to happen automatically. But if you're just starting out and needing to improve your writing skills, longer writing should always be broken down into steps. Think of it like this. What is the point I want to get across? Where must I start? Where will I end? Once you've answered these 3 questions, you need to generate a list of all the things you need to say to make sure you get your reader from A to Z. To do this, you need to just write up a bullet point list, a bit like this. Horses are wonderful. They bring you back to nature. They are environmentally friendly. I like horses. Horses have been known to help heal people with trauma. They are the earliest form of transport. Make sure you spend a lot of time getting all your ideas written down. Then group all the information together that belongs together, like this. Horses are wonderful. They bring you back to nature. They are environmentally friendly. I like horses. Horses have been known to help heal people with trauma. They are the earliest form of transport. Then relist them in order from start to finish. I like horses. They are the earliest form of transport. Horses have been known to heal people with trauma. They bring you back to nature. They are environmentally friendly. Horses are wonderful. Now you have a structure and progression. Now you can start to write your piece and focus only on building really good sentences because you already know what you're going to write about. All you really need to think about now is how you're going to write it. If you're not used to writing a lot or writing longer pieces, there is a lot to think about. But you write every single day. WhatsApp, texting, email, social media. So you have plenty of places and time to practice. In certain ways, writing is a bit like doing DIY. It's extremely important to think 3 times before you do anything. If you consistently do that for a period of time, you'll never have to do it again. But if you don't start to think a lot before you write, you will not improve, and your readers will still often be confused by the way you express your thoughts and intentions.